The great ships of the Vraxian Armada hung in the darkness at the edge of Earth's solar system. Their metal hulls gleamed dully in the distant sunlight. On the bridge of the lead ship, Supreme Commander Zithkar stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the blue light of the ship's monitors as he stared at the image of Earth displayed on the main screen. "Such a blue world," he said. His voice was low and rough. "And soon to be ours." Officer Grell approached and bowed. "Supreme Commander, our scouts report that the humans have basic space travel capabilities, but nothing that could threaten our ships. They are primitive, just as our intelligence suggested." Zithkar nodded. The Vraxian Empire had conquered 17 planetary systems before Earth. None had offered much resistance. The strong ruled the weak. This was the way of the universe, the core belief of Vraxian culture. "Deploy the scout drones," Zithkar ordered. "I want detailed information about their military capabilities and population centers before we begin the attack." Grell hurried away to relay the orders. Soon, hundreds of small, disc-shaped drones detached from the Vraxian ships and streaked toward Earth. They were designed to be invisible to human radar systems. On the observation deck, Lieutenant Vrax and Science Officer Nalaser monitored the drone deployment. Nalaser, younger than most officers aboard, flicked her tongue nervously. "Do you think the humans will surrender quickly?" she asked. Vrax laughed. "Of course. They are soft creatures. Our reports show they have barely mastered their own planet, let alone developed any real defenses against us. This conquest will be quick." "Still," Elizer said, "I would like to study them before they are subjugated. Their culture seems ... unusual." "You!" "Scientists are all the same," Vrax said with a dismissive wave of his clawed hand. "There will be plenty of time to study them after we control their world." Down on Earth, in Yellowstone National Park, Jack Nelson was having a perfectly normal day. At 35 years old, with weathered skin and strong hands, the park ranger moved through the forest with quiet confidence. After 3 tours overseas as a Marine, he had found peace working in the wilderness. The sounds of birds and wind in the trees had helped heal the wounds that war had left in his mind. Jack checked his watch. It was almost time to head back to the ranger station. Summer brought many visitors to the park, and part of his job was to make sure they stayed safe. He had already helped a lost child find her parents and had warned several groups of tourists not to feed the wildlife. As he walked along a trail that led back to the main campground, Jack noticed fresh bear tracks in the soft dirt. He knelt to examine them. "Big fella," he muttered to himself. "Probably old Bruno." Old Bruno was a large grizzly bear well known to the park rangers. He wasn't usually aggressive, but he was bold and often came too close to camping areas looking for food that careless tourists left out. Jack stood and picked up his pace. If Bruno was heading toward the campground, he wanted to make sure the bear was redirected before any problems started. Meanwhile, high above Earth, one of the Vraxian scout drones experienced a malfunction. Its navigation system flickered, and instead of heading toward the military base it was assigned to observe, it drifted off course. "What's happening with Scout Unit 347? Lieutenant Vrax asked, noticing the error on his monitor. Nalaser typed quickly on her control panel. "Minor navigation issue. It's landing in a wilderness area instead of the military installation." She studied the readout. "It's called Yellowstone National Park." Vrax hissed in annoyance. "Redirect it." "Actually," Nalaser said, her scientific curiosity piqued, "this might be valuable. Our intelligence on how humans interact with their planet's natural environment is limited. Perhaps we should allow this drone to observe." Vrax considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well. But if there's nothing useful to observe, redirect it to its original target." The drone now cloaked and invisible to human eyes, hovered over Yellowstone Park. Its sensors scanned the area, recording data about the plants, animals, and humans below. Jack reached the edge of the campground and frowned. Several families had set up tents in the area, and children played between them. At the far end of the clearing, he spotted movement in the trees. It was exactly what he had feared, the massive form of old Bruno, sniffing the air and moving slowly toward the campsite. One family had left their cooler outside their tent, and Jack could see that the bear had caught the scent of food. Nearby, a young couple was taking selfies, completely unaware of the approaching danger. Jack keyed his radio. "Base, this is Nelson. We've got Bruno at the Pine Meadow campground. Going to try to redirect him. Send backup with the noise deterrents. Just in case." The radio crackled. "Copy that, Jack. Be careful. Backup is 15 minutes out." Jack knew 15 minutes was too long. Bruno would be in the campsite by then. He had to act now. The Vraxian drone sensors focused on the scene. Below, Lieutenant Vrax and Science Officer Nalazer watched with interest as their screens showed a human male moving purposefully toward a large, furry creature at the edge of a clearing. "What is that animal?" Vrax asked. Nalazer consulted the database. "It appears to be an Ursus arctos horribilis, a grizzly bear, one of Earth's apex predators. It can weigh up to 800 Earth pounds and has significant natural weapons." The screen showed close-ups of the bear's long claws and powerful jaws. "The human appears to be approaching it deliberately," Vrax noted with surprise. "Perhaps this is some kind of trained military animal?" "Unlikely," Nalazer said. "Our intelligence suggests Earth militaries don't use these creatures. This is strange behavior." On the ground, Jack moved quickly but calmly. He unhooked the bear spray from his belt, but kept it at his side. Years of experience had taught him that loud noises often worked best as a first attempt to deter bears. "Hey, Bruno," he shouted, his voice booming across the clearing. "That's far enough, big guy." The tourists turned in surprise, some gasping, as they finally noticed the bear. Parents quickly gathered their children. The bear stood on its hind legs, now fully 9 feet tall. It sniffed the air and let out a low growl. On the Vraxian ship, the observers were stunned. "The human is challenging an apex predator 3 times its size," Vrax said, his voice hushed with disbelief, "with no visible weapons beyond a small canister." "Nalazer." Eyes widened. "Alert Commander Zithkar. This requires further observation." As Jack faced down the bear, little did he know that high above, aliens were watching aliens whose entire invasion plan was about to be reconsidered because of what they were witnessing. A human facing one of Earth's most dangerous creatures, armed with nothing but courage and a can of pepper spray. Jack kept his eyes locked on Bruno the bear. He knew better than to run. Running would only trigger the bear's chase instinct. Instead, he stood his ground and made himself look bigger by raising his arms. Everyone back away slowly. Jack called to the tourists without taking his eyes off Bruno. "Move to your cars if you can. No sudden movements." The campers did as they were told. Parents grabbed their children. A man fumbled with his phone, trying to record the scene. The young couple who had been taking selfies backed away, their faces pale with fear. Bruno dropped back to all fours and took a step toward the abandoned cooler. Jack knew if the bear got a taste of human food, he would keep coming back to the campgrounds. That would eventually lead to Bruno being relocated, or worse. "Sorry, buddy," Jack said. "Can't let you do that." He moved forward, positioning himself between the bear and the cooler. Jack made loud noises, clapping his hands and shouting. This was standard procedure for bear encounters. Most bears would run away when confronted by loud humans. But old Bruno, wasn't most bears. Maybe he was too used to humans, or maybe he was just extra hungry that day. Instead of retreating, the massive grizzly charged Dot in the Vraxian ship. Lieutenant Vrax and Science Officer Nalazer watched the scene with growing amazement. "The human should flee," Vrax said. "The predator is attacking." Nalazer couldn't take her eyes off the screen. "Look at the other humans. They're recording this encounter rather than helping or running away themselves." Commander Zithkar had joined them now, his tall frame looming over the younger officers. "What is happening down there?" he demanded. "A human is confronting one of Earth's apex predators, sir," Nalazer explained. "And it appears to be ... normal behavior. The other humans are not surprised." On the ground, Jack had seconds to react. As Bruno charged, Jack raised the bear spray and fired a cloud of burning capsaicin at the bear's face. Bruno roared and shook his head, temporarily confused by the spray. But the wind carried some of the spray away, making it less effective than Jack had hoped. The bear continued forward, now just 10 feet away from Jack. With the spray only partially working, Jack had to try something else. Jack had trained in hand-to-hand combat during his time as a Marine. He had also studied animal behavior for years. He knew bears often made bluff charges, and Bruno had backed down in previous encounters. But not this time. As Bruno reared up again, towering over him, Jack made a split-second decision that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. He lunged forward and grabbed the bear, around its midsection in a wrestler's clinch. Up in the Vraxian ship, all 3 aliens stared in shock. "Is the human ... fighting the predator?" Commander Zithkar asked, his voice unusually high. "It appears so, sir," Nalazer said, hastily typing commands to zoom in the drone's view. "Physical combat with minimal tools." On Earth, Jack used Bruno's momentum against him. As the bear came down from its standing position, Jack pushed from the side, causing the bear to stumble. He didn't want to hurt Bruno, just redirect him away from the campsite. Jack had done this once before with a smaller black bear. It was risky, but he knew bears were top-heavy and could be thrown off balance. The trick was to avoid the claws and teeth. Bruno swiped at Jack, who ducked under the massive paw and pushed against the bear's shoulder, causing the animal to roll to the side. Jack quickly jumped back, giving himself space. The bear was confused now. This wasn't how prey usually behaved. Bruno charged again, and this time Jack sidestepped, grabbed the bear's fur, and used the animal's momentum to guide it past him. Away from the campsite. It looked for all the world like a man wrestling a bear. "Get some video of the cooler," Jack shouted to the nearest tourist. "I need evidence of why Bruno was here." The tourist, a middle-aged man named Bill, nodded and pointed his phone camera at the open cooler with food visible inside. "Got it, Ranger," Bill called back. "And I'm getting great footage of you, too. This is going on YouTube for sure." Jack didn't have time to worry about becoming an internet sensation. Bruno was turning around for another charge. This time, Jack grabbed a nearby fallen branch, holding it horizontally in front of him. When Bruno charged, the bear bit down on the branch. Jack used that moment to push the bear backwards and to the side, continuing to guide the animal away. From the campground. In the Vraxian ship, the command center had gone completely silent. More officers had gathered to watch the scene unfolding on Earth. "Our intelligence reports must be wrong," Commander Zithkar said finally. Humans were described as a soft species that had only barely managed to tame their world. "Sir," Nalazer sighed, "I believe we're witnessing something remarkable. The human is not trying to kill the predator. He appears to be redirecting it, and doing so with remarkable skill." "Check other drones," Commander Zithkar ordered. "I want to know if this is typical human behavior, or if we're observing some kind of specially trained warrior." Down on Earth, The battle between man and bear continued. Bruno was growing tired. Jack kept his movements controlled and defensive, never attacking the bear, but always guiding it away from the campsite. After 3 minutes that felt like hours, Bruno finally seemed to lose interest. With a final huff, the bear turned and lumbered back into the forest. Jack stood his ground, making sure the bear was truly leaving. Only when Bruno disappeared among the trees did Jack finally relax his stance. He was breathing hard, his ranger, uniform torn at the shoulder. He had a few scratches on his arms, but nothing serious. The campground erupted in cheers. People rushed forward, phones still recording. "That was amazing. Are you okay? I've never seen anything like that." Bill, the tourist who had recorded the cooler, approached with a beer in hand. He offered it to Jack. "That was the coolest thing I've ever seen, man. You wrestled a bear." Jack accepted the beer with a tired smile. "Just another day in Yellowstone?" he said, taking a long drink. "But please, folks, keep your food in bear-proof containers. I don't want to have to do that again." As Jack spoke to the gathered tourists, explaining bear safety rules with new authority, the Vraxian drone continued to hover invisibly overhead, recording everything. In the Vraxian command ship, reports were coming in from other drones around the planet. The news was disturbing to the alien invaders. Humans riding bulls in Texas. Humans swimming with sharks in Australia. Humans handling venomous snakes in religious ceremonies. "This changes everything," Commander Zithkar said quietly. "A species that wrestles apex predators for recreation is not one we should underestimate." The invasion of Earth suddenly seemed much more complicated than the Vraxians had planned. The Vraxian command center buzzed with activity. Dozens of officers gathered around screens showing footage from Earth. Commander Zithkar stood in the center, his face grim as he watched humans across the planet engaging with dangerous creatures. "Show me that bear encounter again," he ordered. The main screen replayed the footage of Jack Nelson wrestling with Bruno, the bear. Vraxian analysts had added data overlays showing the bear's weight, strength, and claw size compared to human capabilities. "This makes no sense," said Chief Strategist Kelver, an older Vraxian with battle scars on his scales. "The human is outmatched in every physical category, yet he prevails." Science Officer Nalazer stepped forward. "Sir, I believe I understand part of what we're seeing. The human isn't trying to kill the bear. He's using its own momentum and weight against it, redirecting rather than confronting. That requires remarkable skill and courage," Commander Zithkar said. "What else have the drones found?" A junior officer activated a new set of images on the screens. "These are from various Earth locations, sir." The Vraxians watched in stunned silence. In Spain, humans ran in front of bulls. In Australia, a woman swam alongside great white sharks, protected only by a metal cage. In Florida, a man handled alligators, taping their mouths shut with his bare hands. In India, snake charmers sat inches from cobras. "Are these some kind of elite warriors?" Kelver asked. "No, sir," the junior officer replied. "Our data indicates these are ordinary humans engaged in activities they call sports, entertainment, or conservation work." Commander Zithkar turned to Nalazer. "What does this mean for our invasion plans?" Nalazer flicked her tongue nervously. "Sir, a species that wrestles apex predators for amusement will not surrender easily. They may even enjoy combat." A heavy silence fell over the command center. "We need more information," Commander Zithkar decided. "Deeper investigation into human history and warfare. I want to know what we're really facing." Back on Earth, Jack Nelson arrived at the ranger station. His fellow rangers gathered around him, having heard about the bear incident over the radio. "You wrestled old Bruno?" asked Ranger Steve, a young man in his first season at Yellowstone. Are you crazy? Jack shrugged as he cleaned his scratches with antiseptic. It wasn't wrestling. I just redirected him. Not according to the internet, said Ranger Maria, holding up her phone. You're going viral, Jack. Someone posted the video, calling it Epic Man vs. Bear Wrestling Match in Yellowstone. It's got 50,000 views already. Jack groaned. Great. Now we'll have tourists trying to hug bears. Chief Ranger Allen walked in, his face serious. Jack, we need to talk about proper protocols for wildlife encounters. Jack nodded. I know it wasn't by the book, but that family left their cooler out. Bruno was going to get to it before backup arrived with the noise deterrents. I understand why you did it, Allen said, his expression softening. And between us, it was pretty impressive. But now we need to get ahead of this story before people think bear wrestling is a normal part of visiting Yellowstone. On the Vraxian ship, the research team had assembled a comprehensive report on human history. Commander Zithkar, Lieutenant Vrax, and Science Officer Nalaizir gathered to review. The findings. Humans have domesticated wolves, Nalaizir began, showing images of people playing with dogs. They took one of their planet's pack predators and turned them into companions that live in their homes. Lieutenant Vrax looked disturbed. Is nothing feared by these creatures? It gets worse, Nalaizir continued. They ride on top of large animals for sport. They jump out of flying machines with cloth to slow their fall. They climb frozen mountains for no reason other than the challenge. What about their warfare? Commander Zithkar asked. Our initial reports suggested they were not a martial species. Kelver stepped forward with a grim expression. That was a misinterpretation, sir. They haven't engaged in interplanetary warfare because they haven't met other species yet. But among themselves, ... double quotes, he paused. Their history is filled with conflict. They are remarkably adaptable in combat and can endure extreme conditions. He showed footage from human history. Soldiers crossing freezing rivers, fighting in scorching deserts, surviving in jungles, and enduring endless sieges. Most concerning, Kelver continued, they often seem to celebrate this tenacity. They make entertainment about their wars. Their heroes are often those who endured the most pain or overcame the greatest odds. Commander Zithkar paced the room. We have conquered 17 systems before this. None showed such ... resilience. There's something else, sir, Nalaizir said. The bear wrestler, Jack Nelson. We looked into his background. He was a human warrior, what they call a Marine, who served in 3 combat deployments. Now he works in nature preservation. From warrior to protector of wildlife, Commander Zithkar mused. Interesting. It suggests a complexity we hadn't anticipated, Nalaizir said. Many of their strongest seem to value protection over domination. On Earth, Jack finished his shift and drove to his small cabin at the edge of the park. The cabin was simple but comfortable, with a porch facing the mountains. Jack sat in a wooden chair, nursing a cold beer, and watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink dot. His phone kept buzzing, with messages from friends who had seen the video. Jack ignored it. Out here, with the mountains and forests spread before him, human fame seemed unimportant. Little did he know that high above, aliens were rethinking their entire approach to Earth because of his actions. In the Vraxian command ship, Commander Zithkar made a decision. We need a direct test, he announced to his officers. Something more than observation. I want to understand these humans up close before we commit our forces. What kind of test, sir? Lieutenant Vrax asked. Send a small team to capture a single human for examination, Commander Zithkar ordered. I want to assess their resistance capabilities directly. Which human should we target? Nalaizir asked. Commander Zithkar looked at the screen, which still showed Jack's cabin. Him, the bear wrestler. If we can understand what makes him face danger so readily, we may better understand the species. Sir, Culver said cautiously, if humans are as resilient as our research suggests, even a capture mission could be risky. That's precisely what we need to find out, Commander Zithkar replied. Prepare a special forces team. 4 operators should be sufficient for one. Human. As night fell over Yellowstone, Jack Nelson slept peacefully in his cabin, unaware that he had been selected for alien abduction. The fate of Earth's first contact with extraterrestrial life now rested on the shoulders of a park ranger who had wrestled a bear and lived to tell the tale. Jack woke up early the next morning. It was his day off, but years in the Marines had made sleeping an impossible. He made a pot of strong coffee and stepped onto his porch. The morning air was crisp and cool. Mist hung over the trees, and birds called to each other in the forest. After breakfast, Jack decided to split some firewood. Winter was still months away, but he liked to stay prepared. He set up a log on the chopping block and swung his axe with practiced ease. Meanwhile, a small Vraxian ship entered Earth's atmosphere under cover of darkness. It used advanced technology to avoid human detection systems. The ship landed in a small clearing about a mile from Jack's cabin. 4 Vraxian Special Forces operatives emerged. They wore full-body armor that could bend light around them, making them nearly invisible. Each carried non-lethal weapons designed to capture rather than kill. Remember, said squad leader Krex, our mission is to capture one human for examination. No lethal force unless absolutely necessary. Officer Zorn, the weapons specialist, checked his stun device. The target is the one who wrestled the large predator. We should expect resistance. The other 2 operatives, Mex and Vorn, nodded silently. All 4 had been told this was a simple mission. Capture a primitive being from a primitive world. But after seeing the footage from Earth, they were nervous. Back at Jack's cabin, he had finished splitting wood and was taking a break. He sipped water from a bottle and looked out over his property. Something caught his eye, a strange pattern in the dirt near the edge of the trees. Jack frowned. Those weren't animal tracks he recognized. Jack's years as a Marine had taught him to notice things that didn't belong. His instincts told him something was wrong. He set down his water bottle and walked toward the strange tracks. The Vraxian squad had set up a perimeter around Jack's cabin. They communicated using silent signals transmitted through their helmets. Target is moving toward Vorn's position, Krex said. Vorn, hold still. Your camouflage should keep you hidden. Understood. Vorn replied. He stood motionless as the human approached. Jack followed the strange tracks into the trees. They were like nothing he had ever seen, 3-toed, with an unusual gait. Too big for a bird, too strange for a mammal. Then Jack noticed something. Else a slight distortion in the air near a large pine tree, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. But it wasn't hot enough for that. Jack had seen similar visual effects from special forces using camouflage technology during his military service. Jack's training kicked in. Instead of showing that he'd noticed something, he pretended to examine the ground. Then, in a move that surprised the watching aliens, he stood up and walked directly toward the distortion. Hello? Jack called out, his hands open in a non-threatening gesture. I can see something's there. I don't mean any harm. In the Vraxian ship orbiting Earth, Commander Zithkar and Science Officer Nalazer watched the live feed from the ground team with growing concern. The human has detected Vorn, Nalazer said in disbelief. How is that possible? Our camouflage technology should be far beyond their detection capabilities. It seems we continue to underestimate them, Commander Zithkar replied grimly. On the ground, the Vraxian squad was momentarily confused by Jack's direct approach. He's spotted Vorn, Krex said. Initiate capture protocol now. All 4 Vraxians moved at once. Vorn fired his stun weapon, but Jack, seeing the slight movement, dodged to the side. The stun blast hit a tree, leaving a scorch mark. Jack rolled behind a fallen log, his mind racing. Whatever these things were, they weren't human, and they were armed. He grabbed a heavy branch from the ground, the only weapon available. "I don't know who you are," Jack called out, "but I'm guessing this isn't a friendly visit." The Vraxians spread out, trying to surround him. Mex fired another stun blast, which Jack barely avoided. Jack caught a glimpse of one of the aliens as its camouflage flickered after firing. The sight of a reptilian figure in body armor would have terrified most people, but Jack's mind quickly adapted to the situation. "Aliens," he muttered to himself. "Of course it's aliens. Why not?" Jack remembered his combat training. When outnumbered, change the rules of engagement. He grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it into the air, revealing the outline of one of the camouflaged figures. Then he did something the Vraxians didn't expect. Instead of running away, Jack charged directly at the revealed alien in the orbiting ship. Now Laser gasped. "He's attacking? Not retreating?" Commander Zithkar leaned forward. "Fascinating." On the ground, Zarn was caught off guard by Jack's charge. The Vraxian tried to fire his weapon, but Jack swung the branch, knocking it from his hands. The impact broke part of Zarn's camouflage device, making him partially visible. The other Vraxians moved to help, but Jack had created chaos. He fought. With a combination of military training and the practical strength developed through years of outdoor work. He wasn't trying to kill the aliens. He just wanted to understand what was happening. "Let's talk this out," Jack shouted as he grappled with Zarn. "I'm sure there's a misunderstanding here." The Vraxians had not expected this response. Their intelligence had suggested humans would either flee in terror or attack with mindless aggression when faced with superior technology. Jack was doing neither. He was fighting defensively while trying to communicate. Jack managed to pin Zarn to the ground. The alien's helmet came loose, revealing a scaled, reptilian face with slitted yellow eyes. Jack stared in shock, but didn't loosen his hold. "Okay," Jack said, surprisingly calm. "You're definitely not from around here." Krex signaled to Mex and Vorn. "Subdue the human now." The 2 Vraxians approached from behind, but Jack heard them coming. He rolled away from Zarn, causing Mex to accidentally stun his teammate instead of Jack. Zarn collapsed, temporarily paralyzed. Now Jack faced 3 aliens, 1 visible and 2 still mostly camouflaged. Jack grabbed Zarn's fallen stun weapon. He had no idea how to use it, but he pointed it at the visible parts of the approaching aliens. "I don't want to hurt anyone," Jack said firmly, "but I will defend myself. Let's all calm down and figure this out." In the command ship, Commander Zithkar was both impressed and concerned. "The human has neutralized one of our best operatives and acquired our technology," he said. "And he's still attempting peaceful communication despite being attacked. Should we abort the mission?" Lieutenant Vrax asked. "No," Commander Zithkar replied. "I want to see how this plays out." On the ground, the situation had reached a standoff. Jack held the alien weapon while the 3 remaining Vraxians surrounded him. Then Vorn stepped on a dry branch, which snapped loudly. Jack spun and fired the weapon instinctively. The stun blast hit Vorn directly. The alien collapsed, his camouflage failing completely. 2 down, 2 to go, Jack said, returning his attention to the others. Krex made a decision. "Fall back," he ordered Mex. "Regroup at the ship." As the 2 remaining aliens retreated, Jack knelt beside the stunned Vorn. The alien was breathing but unconscious. Jack's training as a first responder kicked in. He checked for injuries, then carefully removed the alien's helmet to help it. "Breathe better." "Don't worry, buddy," Jack said to the unconscious alien. "I'm not going to hurt you, but we definitely need to have a conversation when you wake up." Jack carried the unconscious alien into his cabin and laid it on his couch. He checked its breathing and pulse, or what he assumed was a pulse finding a slow but steady rhythm at the base of its neck. The alien's skin was cool and slightly rough, like fine leather dot. After making sure the alien was stable, Jack dragged the other stunned alien to the porch and propped it against the wall. Then he made coffee. If there was ever a time that called for caffeine, first contact with aliens was it. On the Vraxion command ship, the atmosphere was tense. Commander Zithkar watched as Krex and Mex retreated to their landing craft. Two of our elite soldiers captured by a single human, Lieutenant Vrax said in disbelief. Not killed, Nalazer pointed out. The human could have killed them, but chose not to. Commander Zithkar nodded thoughtfully. The bear wrestler continues to surprise us. Back in Jack's cabin, Vorn the alien began to stir. Its yellow eyes opened slowly, focusing on Jack, who sat in a chair across from the couch, sipping his coffee. "I removed your weapon, and what I think is a communication device," Jack said calmly. "I don't speak whatever language you speak, but I'm guessing you might understand me." Vorn remained still, assessing the situation. The Vraxian Special Forces had been briefed on basic human language, enough to understand simple commands. "Your friend outside is okay too," Jack continued. "Just stunned. Same weapon you tried to use on me." He took another sip of coffee. "Now, want to tell me why you were trying to capture me?" Vorn said nothing, but his eyes darted around the cabin, taking in details. Jack sighed. "Look, I get it. You're scared. I'm scared too. But we can either figure this out together, or we can keep fighting. I prefer talking." Outside, Zarn was also regaining consciousness on the porch. He tried to move, but found his hands secured with rope. Meanwhile, in orbit, Commander Zithkar made a difficult decision. "Prepare diplomatic team," he ordered, surprising his officers. "And ready my shuttle." "Sir?" Lieutenant Vrax questioned. "You're not thinking of going down there personally?" "I am," Commander Zithkar replied. "This human has defeated our special forces and then shown mercy. I want to understand this species better before we make any more mistakes." Science Officer Nalazer stepped forward. "I request permission to join you, Commander." "Granted," Zithkar said. "We leave in 1 hour." Back on Earth, Jack had made progress with Vorn. The alien had finally spoken, using broken English. "Study. Humans," Vorn said haltingly. "Mission ... capture ... do. Study?" Jack repeated. "You came across space to study us. Why me specifically?" "You fight ... big animal," Vorn replied. "Bear." Jack almost laughed. "The bear wrestling video? You saw that?" Vorn nodded. "And that made me interesting enough to kidnap?" Jack asked. "Humans, strange," Vorn said. "Not ... afraid. Need ... understand." Before Jack could respond, his phone rang. It was Chief Ranger Allen. "Jack, we've got a situation," Allen said when Jack answered. "Military vehicles are heading toward your location. Something about unidentified aircraft in the area. You see anything unusual out there?" Jack looked at the alien sitting on his couch. No. Nothing I can't handle. But tell them I appreciate the heads up." After hanging up, Jack turned to Vorn. "Looks like your friends attracted attention. Military is on the way." Vorn's eyes widened. "More humans ... with weapons?" "Yeah," Jack said. "And they might not be as understanding as me." Suddenly, a low humming sound came from outside. Jack looked out the window to see a silver craft descending into the clearing near his cabin. It was much larger than what he imagined had brought. The 4 alien soldiers. Friends of yours? Jack asked Vorn. Commander, Vorn said, sounding both relieved and worried. Jack grabbed the alien stun weapon, just in case. Let's go meet them, shall we? But remember, no funny business. Outside, the ship's door opened, revealing 2 Vraxians. One wore elaborate armor with insignia that suggested leadership. The other wore simpler clothing with what looked like scientific instruments. I am Commander Zithkar of the Vraxian Empire, the leader announced in surprisingly good English. I come to speak with the human who defeats both bears and Vraxian special forces. Jack stepped forward, keeping the stun weapon visible, but not pointed directly at the visitors. Jack Nelson, he replied, park ranger and unwilling participant in alien abduction attempts. Despite the tension, Jack's dry humor translated. Commander Zithkar made a sound that might have been a laugh. You have my apologies, the commander said. It seems we have much to learn about humans, starting with asking permission before. You try to kidnap someone, Jack suggested. The scientific-looking alien stepped forward. I am Science Officer Nalizer. We have been observing Earth prior to ... potential contact. Jack caught the hesitation. Potential contact? Or potential invasion? The aliens exchanged looks. We have conquered 17 systems, Commander Zithkar admitted. Earth was to be the 18th. Until you saw someone wrestling a bear, Jack said, understanding dawning. Yes. Nalizer confirmed. Human behavior confused us. You intentionally confront dangerous situations. You form bonds with predator species. You seem to. Enjoy challenge and risk. In the distance, the sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. We don't have much time, Jack said. Your landing didn't go unnoticed. What will your military do when they arrive? Commander Zithkar asked. Jack considered this. Hard to say best case. They try to communicate. Worst case, they shoot first and ask questions later. Like we almost did, the commander said thoughtfully. Exactly, Jack agreed. So maybe there's a better way to do this. Jack explained his idea quickly. By the time 3 military helicopters appeared overhead, the scene they found was unexpected. Jack Nelson, local park ranger, chatting with 2 strange-looking visitors at a picnic table outside his cabin. Sharing coffee. Government vehicles arrived soon after. Men in suits emerged, approaching cautiously. Mr. Nelson? One called out. Care to introduce your ... friends? Just some tourists who got lost, Jack replied with a straight face. They're interested in wildlife conservation, particularly bears. The lead agent gave Jack a look that said he wasn't buying it. Sir, we tracked an unidentified craft to this location. Commander Zithkar stood and stepped forward. I am Commander Zithkar of the Vraxian Empire. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations with Earth. The government agents froze, clearly unprepared for such a direct approach. See? Jack said. Just a regular first contact situation. Nothing to worry about. In the days that followed, Jack found himself in the middle of history being made. The Vraxian Empire and Earth established diplomatic relations. Instead of invasion, they negotiated a mutual defense treaty. Commander Zithkar, in his official report to the Vraxian High Command, wrote, the species that treats wrestling with predators as entertainment might just approach interstellar politics. The same way, the Vraxian Empire has never retreated from conquest before, but we have also never encountered humans before. Jack returned to his ranger duties, though now with an additional role, alien cultural liaison. When a rookie ranger asked about the strange pin on his uniform, Jack smiled. Let's just say the aliens were more scared of us than we were of them, he explained. Something about a bear wrestling video that went viral. The rookie looked confused, but Jack just laughed. Some stories were too strange to believe, even when they were completely true.